welcome you. This is a prophetic end time channel. It's called Messiah Revelation Ministry because it's based upon a revelation that I received on August 27th, 2013. And in that revelation, it was a vision. And in the vision, I saw someone behind me, and as I tried to turn to look at the one who was behind me, I saw a man who was dressed in a white attire, a white gown, and he said, "You must look for the angel who sounded the seventh trumpet. Look for the angel who sounded the seventh trumpet." And that is the last trumpet of heaven. If you look at Revelation chapter 11, Apostle John, or Revelation chapter 8, Apostle John was given he was shown angels holding seven trumpets. The trumpets were given to angels, seven of them, and they were to sound the trumpets one after the other. And Apostle John writes in Revelation chapter 11 that when he saw the last angel sounding the last trumpet, the seventh trumpet, he also heard voices from heaven. The kingdoms of this world have become the kingdom of Christ, and he will reign forever and ever. And that is the reason why I named the channel Messiah Revelation Ministry, dedicated to preparing the world for the arrival of the Messiah, because the seventh trumpet of heaven has sounded. And the angels warned the world. And if you read Revelation chapter 11, verse 18, you see that it is time of judgment when the Lord also will reward his prophets and the saints. And he is also going to judge the world, particularly those who destroy the world. Revelation 11:15 is confirming what the prophet Daniel wrote in his book, Daniel 2:44, and we can read from Daniel 2:44. Daniel chapter 2 verse 44, "And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever." And that is the kingdom of the Messiah, Yeshua, Jesus Christ, that is coming. And then you see that as these prophecies are being fulfilled before our eyes, as the Messiah prepares to come to fulfill the prophecies in Daniel 2:44 and Revelation chapter 11 verse 15, you see events happening in the world. And that's why today our focus is on nuclear Brinksmanship and countdown to Armageddon. And so the issue that we are discussing here should not be discussed from the perspective of international politics or psychology or global economics. We have to look at it as events that are happening at a time when the final trumpet of heaven has sounded. August 27, 2013. 2013. That's when I received the vision. And since then, you see things happening. They are happening in the world, and they are not palatable. We have nuclear Brinksmanship. And in case you are not aware, in case the CNNs and Al Jazeera's and the MSNBCs are not talking about it, there's nuclear Brinksmanship. February 22nd, 2022, around that time, I believe, Putin entered Ukraine, and the same day Putin officially entered Ukraine with troops, I received a vision, and the vision was a vision of fire, and I also saw a mushroom cloud that is symbolic of Armageddon, and the fire could not be quenched. In the vision, I wanted people to come and quench the fire, but they couldn't quench the fire. And I was told to contact the fire department. The fire department is located in the throne room of Elohim. It was from this fire department that the adulterous and sodomite cities were destroyed with fire. You remember the fire that destroyed the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. And so in the vision, February 22nd, 2022, when I was told to contact the fire department, definitely the symbolic meaning is that the fire is unquenchable, and it's only Elohim who can quench the fire. The Armageddon is on its way, and we see nuclear Brinksmanship, and we look at events that began early June 2024, and that was a decision made by Putin to send warships to the shores of America, including nuclear-powered submarines. And so you see a armada of warships on the coast of America, United States. And Canadian warships have also joined the American warships in patrolling their coast, because whatever happens to America definitely will have implications for Canada because of geographic proximity, and not only that, also because they share an alliance, being members of NATO. And so you see armada of warships. And where are the warships? The warships are close to Cuba. They are in Havana. And definitely the target is America. The focus is America. The theater of Armageddon is America. And it is very interesting that a major war has not been fought on the soil of America, even though America has fought many wars in foreign lands, killed so many people in foreign lands, but a major war has not been fought on American soil. And so the specter of an armada of warships from Russia, Red Russia, poses a challenge to the psyche of the kings and pharaohs of Babylon, United States. And the warships were sent to the shores of America, close to Florida. And the pretext is military exercises. Of course, when Havana and Moscow say the warships are for military exercises, um, you need to listen to that information with a pinch of salt. The warships are deployed and they are in a striking distance from United States, from Florida, from South Carolina. And the question is, will they strike? But we will not even go there. The fact that Russian warships are in the shores of America shows that we are approaching nuclear armageddon. Definitely, we are at the point of nuclear Brinksmanship. And here we are talking about what Russia is doing, sending a mother of warships to the shores of America. But before then, we also saw what is happening in Ukraine. America authorizing, coercing, conspiring, and giving orders to Ukraine to strike Russia's radars inside Russia. And those radars will give advance warning to Russia if missiles will be incoming. But for some reason, they were able to destroy the radars, and not once, but twice, at least twice. And we need to look at the motives behind destroying Russia's radars. And definitely, you cannot go into the psyche of the war architects, but at least it's a signal that Ukraine, the proxy actor for NATO, is able to hit Russia where it hurts, destroying radars. That will give advance warning to Russia that missiles are incoming. That's one aspect of it. But you can also say that destroying Russia's radars is tantamount to preparing for a strike on Russia, a strike that will take Russia by surprise. Of course, if Russia is not able to detect incoming missiles, then Russia will be vulnerable to a preemptive first strike. That's one way we should be able to, we should interpret the decision by NATO to support Ukraine striking inside Russia, and particularly targeting the radars that will give a warning to Russia if there's any incoming missiles, of course, including nuclear powered missiles. There's Brinkmanship, as we are aware. The media is not talking about it. Russian warships in the coast of United States, and of course NATO is responding, and America has sent warships around monitoring what is happening. And Putin came and gave conditions for Ukraine surrender, and the conditions are very tough. We are not going to go into details. It will mean Ukraine will not ever join NATO. Ukraine will disarm, and Ukraine will also reduce the size of its army. And these are conditions that the West will not accept, because definitely the West is dictating for Zelensky in Ukraine. It's a proxy war, and the only difference is that the trigger is coming from Ukraine, definitely with the advice of NATO. NATO is not directly doing the strikes, but they are doing it indirectly through a proxy. So there's a proxy war, and when you see Russia deploying tactical nukes um, along its border with Ukraine, you see that uh, the the fight is more than a proxy war. It is a nuclear brinksmanship. And when we say nuclear brinksmanship, we should remember what happened during the time of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Probably you can call it the first nuclear brinksmanship, because that was the first time that two major nuclear powered nations were seen at eye to eye with their warships facing each other, and definitely that was a major confrontation. It nearly led to World War III. Is the nuclear brinksmanship now different from the nuclear brinksmanship in 1962? And I would say it's different. It's different because in 1962, you had the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union was not militarily as advanced as it is now under Russia. In 1962, China was aligned to the Soviet Union, at least to some extent, politically and economically, politically at least, and ideologically at least. But China was not a major military power. In 1962, Mao Zedong and the Chinese leader told Nikita Khrushchev to use nuclear weapons against America. And Nikita Khrushchev was reluctant. And Mao said, don't chicken out. You need to strike America. America is, quote unquote, a paper tiger. Paper tiger, quote unquote. Of course, Khrushchev exercised wisdom and diplomacy, and he told the Chairman Mao, that America is not a paper tiger. And if you put your hands in her mouth, then you will know that the tiger has teeth. It is all part of history. So in 1962, you saw that Khrushchev was not ready to use nuclear weapons, number one. Number two, China was not as advanced militarily as it is now, but now the conditions are different. Khrushchev is not in power. The person who is in power in Russia is Putin. Does Putin have any intention? Of course, Putin has the intention to revive the lost glory of the Soviet Union and to capture the lost glory that the Soviet Union lost when it was disintegrated. And you can also see that today Russia has more nuclear weapons than America, and that was not the case in 1962 when America had preponderance of power. But now the balance of power has changed, and China is a nuclear powered nation, and the dynamics have changed because in this world other countries have acquired nuclear weapons, whether you're talking about India, Pakistan, and North Korea, talking about Israel, and even Iran. They are all nuclear oriented or nuclear powered nations. So there is nuclear proliferation, and America's hegemony in 1962 is no longer in existence. At that time, 1962, America could boast of a nuclear hegemony, but technological diffusion has resulted in nuclearization of the world, and many countries have improved their capabilities. Some nations that were first strike nations are now second strike nations. And there's a difference between a first strike nation and a second strike nation. A first strike nuclear nation is a country with nuclear weapons uh, that can only strike first. Because if that country is hit with nuclear weapons, that country wouldn't have any capability to respond. And so that country is a first strike nation. A second strike nation, on the other hand, is a country that has nuclear weapons. And if you strike that country still will have the capability to respond and strike back. And so that nation is a second strike nation. Russia is a second strike nation. And so if Russia is hit with nuclear weapons, theoretically, it will be able to respond even when Russia is hit. Is there any possibility of preemptive nuclear strike? The doctrine of preemptive strike was articulated by Bush. Bush number two. Bush said that the U.S. Will now adopt preemptive strike as a doctrine. And when that doctrine was articulated by Bush number two, he was able to strike nations in the Gulf, preemptive strike. When American interest was at stake, America should be able to strike a nation first. And so that doctrine still is in force. And the question is, will America do a preemptive strike on Russia? Russian President Vladimir Putin made a statement and that he's preparing Russia for first strike. And we have to look at it from two angles. And the first angle is we assume that Russia is preparing for a possible US strike on Russia. And that is preparation for first strike. Of course, the second interpretation would be that Russia is preparing to first strike its enemies in NATO. Russia reportedly has deployed S-500 defense systems and other systems in preparation for a possible first strike from NATO against Russia. And so if Russia is preparing for a first strike, if Russia believes that NATO can strike, then we are at the point of nuclear brinksmanship. And when you actually see Russian warships close to United States, nuclear-powered warships being torpedoed, being monitored by American and Canadian warships, we are actually observing, witnessing nuclear brinksmanship, probably worse than what happened during the time of the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. The Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 was a time for Nikita Khrushchev to test America's resolve, to test America's doctrine, and the Monroe Doctrine, articulated by President Monroe. and that said that the Western Hemisphere is within the backyard of America, and no European nation will be allowed to intervene or to interfere in the Western Hemisphere. That is the Monroe Doctrine, articulated since 1823. And the Cuban Missile Crisis was a test of the Monroe Doctrine. And here it was not an European nation interfering in the Western Hemisphere. It was Russia, Soviet Union. Uh, Probably you call it European, but it was not Germany, it was not France, it was not Britain competing with America in the Western Hemisphere. It was the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union came into existence after the revolution in Russia, and principally after the Second World War, when the Soviet Union became a major power. So 1962 was a test of the Monroe Doctrine. 2024, Putin is also testing the Monroe Doctrine. Putin is not even testing the Monroe Doctrine. Putin is overruling the Monroe Doctrine. Putin is pretending that there's no Monroe Doctrine, and if there's a Monroe Doctrine, Russia has broken the Monroe Doctrine. Russia has broken the myth of America's invisibility, because now America is under stress. What should America do? Should America strike nuclear-powered submarines in her coast, or should America do nothing? Should America be silent? What happened to America? The other day, weren't some senators from U.S. Congress saying that America should strike Putin? Were they not saying that? Would they strike Putin? At least Putin warships are closer to America, and so if America wants to strike, they can go ahead and do that. Probably now will be a time for the strategies of both Russia and America to test their nuclear doctrines, mutual assured destruction. If you use nuclear weapons against another nation, and then you be rest assured that you'll be mutually destroyed. But that is arrogance. Arrogance from the perspective of the Americans is also arrogance from the perspective of the Russians. There was somebody who created the universe. His God sitting in heaven. The universe was not created by evolution. Occult American scientists, including Charles Darwin, they believe that the world evolved. It was not created by God. But of course, Charles Darwin was a member of the Freemason, and a lot of American presidents have been members of the Freemason. They don't believe in God. And American pastors who even preach from the Bible, and some of them are members of the Freemason. And I don't think they believe in the Bible because they are not worshiping the God of the universe who created heavens and earth. The fact that an American president put his hand on the Bible to swear to abide by the Constitution of the United States doesn't mean that that president is a Christian or that president believes in the contents of the Bible, because that president, in most cases, are members of the Freemason. Their objective is to destroy Christianity. Their objective is to take God from America and take God from the world and bring in a religion of materialism. They are poking at the Lord who is in heaven. And so we are at the point of nuclear brinksmanship, we see it, and somebody will say that um, it is not news. Definitely, it is nuclear exercises. The Russians do it all the time. Americans do it all the time. But you are forgetting that this nuclear brinksmanship is coming at a time that is perilous. And when we say perilous times, we remember what Paul told his younger brother Timothy, that in the last days we will be living in perilous times. And Babylon, America definitely is living in a perilous time. At the time when there's nuclear brinksmanship, at the time when nuclear powered submarines are hovering around the coast of America, American dollar is under stress. The petrodollar diplomacy, petrodollar hegemony is under stress. And in 1962, you only had China and Soviet Union challenging America. But in 2024 and beyond, you see an organization called BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, and China, and South Africa, plus so many other countries. Many nations are running to BRICS. So America's economic hegemony is countered by BRICS hegemony, economic hegemony. So America is declining economically. Her dollar is under stress, and that is diminution of economic supremacy in the international system. Morally, America is also declining. There is feminization of America. American men are becoming women. There's moral decay, and of course, you disagree with me, but it's moral decay because of sodomization of America. America has lost her credibility. The other day, United Methodist Church, they adopted a sodomite policy. And so many countries in Africa particularly, they have moved away from that path. America has lost her leadership, cultural influence, and even evangelical influence because it came out that the evangelicals are preaching false doctrines based upon materialism. They are preaching Americanized Christianity, Americanized version of Christianity, where you mix God with Satan, where you mix God with Lucifer, when you mix holy city Jerusalem with the Sodomite city, Sodom, Gomorrah, because everything is okay. Every alphabet is okay, whether it's L, whether it's G, B, T, Q, W, it's okay in the world. And so America has lost her credibility, socially speaking, economically speaking. And for military capability, you say goodbye, because now you see Soviet warship close to America. And if America wants to send a signal to the world that America is back, and then they can strike the Soviet warships and see what will happen to them. If America believes in the doctrine articulated by their political science professors, including Henry Kissinger, that they are invisible and they will invoke the MAD doctrine, MAD, mutual assurance destruction. Probably this is the best time for them to do that, so that we will see whether they themselves will survive. But we are living in a world where the world is witnessing fulfillment of prophecy as Daniel prophecy in 2:44 is coming to pass. Kingdoms of this world are passing away. And of course, America will pass away. America is passing away. And if somebody believes that America will live forever, then that person is living in a fool's paradise. We are watching nuclear Brinksmanship, and we are marching closer to armageddon. It means that the final trumpet of heaven is showing some signals. And this is what I told you in the beginning of this message that the Lord revealed to me on August 27, 2013, that the final trumpet of heaven has sounded. So the nuclear brinksmanship between Russia and NATO, and the economic stress, the de-dollarization of America, and the moral bankruptcy of America, they are all part of the events that are happening in the last days. It is incumbent for you to watch these events. The mainstream media will not talk about it. Your pastor will not talk about it, because Satan has blindfolded so many people so that they will not know the truth, and they will perish in hell. But for you, you are a son, you are a daughter of light, and the light will shine on you even when you live in a nation that is languishing in darkness. The light of Elohim will shine on you, and you will know that we are living in a world of nuclear brinksmanship, and we are a finger close to Armageddon, and we are inches away from the kingdom of Elohim that is coming. We are waiting for the arrival of our King and Savior, and Lucifer is aware of that. And so the kings and the queens of the world who have contracts and covenant with Lucifer are doing the bidding for their father, who was a liar from the beginning. My email is raptureafrica@yahoo.com, small letters, one word. Thank you for watching this video.